Hey guys, welcome. So today we're going to be going over how to create these beautiful hanging plant earrings. So in today's tutorial, here is the items you will need. If you purchased the polymer clay kit, these items are already included. If you didn't, you're going to need to go out and source these out. So we are using polymer clay in the color Raw Sienna. We're going to be needing some faux plant clippings, a little bag of sand, some jump rings, a way to hang your earrings. We have fish hooks, huggy hoops, or you can do clip-ons. We also have 6 pieces of chain, and then a razor. You can use a kitchen knife if you would prefer to use something a little sharper, and then a way to create holes. So we have a toothpick, and then we also have a hand vise. And then, of course, one of the #1 things you always need with working with polymer clay is a rolling pin. So we have a metal rolling pin today. So those are the items included in today's kit. You will need a few other items. Let's go ahead and go over that. So for these, you are going to, sorry for the mess. For this, you are going to need a hot glue gun with obviously some hot glue. You can get these at the dollar store, but you will need a hot glue gun to complete this look. You're also gonna want some pliers to open your jump rings, of course. A surface to create on. So if you're on your kitchen table and it's very porous wood, do not work on that surface. You want a smooth surface. So this can be glass, maybe a glass picture frame. It can be a ceramic tile like this. It can even be a kitchen plate. Just make sure that it is smooth and non-porous so that your clay is going to be sticking on there. All right, so you'll need that. And then one other item that I highly recommend, and this is gonna be a little strange sounding, but I want you to go find either a highlighter, maybe even this right here is a makeup piece. But the reason that you want one of these is you want it to have a round edge. You guys see that there, how it has a round tip? You want this because this is how we're going to actually mold the pots and get that nice circular opening inside. If you don't have that, you can use your finger, that's no problem, but most people have a highlighter or some kind of utensil that has a rounded edge. So go find that. That said, let's go ahead and get started. I'll give you a moment to grab the supplies. Also, do me a favor and go ahead and preheat your oven to 275 degrees. That way so we can get the oven nice and toasty warm so that when our pots are created, we can go ahead and put them right in the oven. So that said, I will leave you to it and I will be back in just a moment. All right, guys, so hopefully you had time to go ahead, grab those supplies, and get your oven preheated to 275 degrees. Let it preheat for about 15-20 minutes before we pop these in the oven. So this is going to be a true step-by-step tutorial. What that means is this is probably going to be about a 30-minute tutorial. If you need the recapped version, feel free to speed it up via down here. I believe there's a 1.2, 1.5 if you need to run through the tutorial quickly. If you are doing this with me, there's no rush. Feel free to pause at any point during the video, and we are going through it step by step so nothing's going to get missed. So I hope you have a beverage of some sort. I've got a little bit of coffee. And that said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have my polymer clay here. I went ahead and split it. So if you have a brick here, this is about how much you're going to want to cut. So you're going to want to go ahead and open that up and use either a kitchen knife or your X-Acto blade. And this is about how much we're going to be cutting off, okay? Then what you're going to do is you have your piece and you're going to cut it in half. Again, I already did this part, so it looks like I'm cheating with this. Okay, so now I have my 2 pieces. It's going to be for one pot and the other. So we're going to go ahead and put that to the side. And this is where we're going to start to condition our clay. So using the roller, you want to start to open up that clay. See how there's cracks in it? We want to start to condition it and make it a lot smoother. I'll try and slow down so that the camera can keep up. Condition it. And then I'm going to fold it in half. I really want this nice and conditioned. Fold it in half again. And you'll see it'll get a lot softer. I love polymer clay. It's kind of like adult Play-Doh, essentially. Okay, just gonna fold it like this. So my clay is pretty conditioned there. That looks pretty good. Don't worry about the cracking on the sides. This is nicely conditioned clay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this next process. Now I wanna create kind of like a rectangle. So I want it to be about the thinness of a US quarter. I don't want it too thick, but I don't want it too thin. I'm gonna show you how. All right, so I rolled it out. You guys see that? I don't know if you can see the thickness of it. Pretty thin. See it there? It's pretty thin. That's good. It's about the thickness of a US quarter. So now that that's done, I'm going to take a knife or my X-Acto blade, and I'm going to cut it because I want a nice clean rectangle, right? Just the top. You can trim the bottom a little. Doesn't have to be perfect because one side is actually going to get folded in. As long as I have one nice good edge. Okay, and now I'm going to cut the edge and cut the edge. Look at that. It's not a perfect rectangle, but it doesn't have to be. So it is a rectangle though. That said, I'm going to peel this up. Okay, got my little strip. I got my nice side, and I got the side that isn't quite as nice. There's little crevices and stuff on it. So that's going to be the side that's going to be inward. All right, and this is where these little tools are going to be so handy, okay? So we'll go ahead and do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it about there. Now see how it's kind of, it's not perfectly at the edge. It's hanging off a little. That's what you want. You want it to be hanging off a little. And then I'm going to wrap it loosely, very loosely, till it touches. See, I can see where it touches. Now I know I need to cut off that excess bit. So I'm going to take my razor, and I'm just going to cut off that excess bit. See that? And this is where I'm going to kind of marry the two. Just kind of lightly push. Now here's a little trick. If you take that seam and you just lightly, nothing crazy, lightly rub it on your smooth surface, it'll start to smooth it out. All right, perfect. Just start to smooth it out with your finger. You want to get that little seam out. And we're going to add a rim to the top, so it doesn't have to be perfect at the top, but really in the middle here. Okay, so we have half of our pot halfway built. So here's what we're going to do. Remember how I said it's kind of hanging off? This is where I want you to kind of pinch it together. And we're going to create a rounded base, right? I don't know why. I feel like that always looks like the tip of a cigar or something. I don't know why. Reminds me of my dad growing up. Okay, so I've pinched it together, right? But now I have this ugly bottom. Now here's the trick, and this is why I love these. You're going to press down, hold the pot lightly, and I want you to spin it. And you're gonna get a nice flat bottom. You see that? Perfect. Now here you have two different steps you can do. If your clay is super soft, you can actually take this and pop it in the freezer for about 3 minutes, and it's gonna harden your clay. Now me, I'm a risk taker, and I'm going to try and remove this while it's still a little soft. Feel free to do it either way. If you want to pause it and throw it in the freezer, go for it. But I'm going to show you the next step. So now I'm going to ever so lightly start to pull this off. I can feel it releasing. There we go. It's releasing. Okay. There we go. So now I have the inside of my pot, right? But now we have the edge in here that isn't the prettiest. And this is where I'm going to just rotate it and cut off any, it doesn't have to be perfect, anything that's maybe sticking out a little too much. Nothing crazy. And the reason we don't have to be perfect with it is because we're going to create a rim. If you don't want to create a rim and you're like, you know what, Catherine, I love this little pot, I don't want to add any more to it, you can go ahead and pop it in the oven now. But me, let's go ahead and add a rim, okay? Because I really like the rim, and here's what I mean by a rim. We're going to add the rim to the top, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take that pot, put it there. And you know what? I'll go ahead and make the second pot. Or should we not? No, let's just go ahead and make the rim. Sorry. I'm doing this as you guys are doing this. So I'm going to take my little scraps from that first piece, right? Mushing it around. Okay. Now here's where, again, I'm going to roll it out. Don't bump your little pot that you just created. And we want it to be the same length as last time. Pretty long. And you want it thin. You want this very, very thin. Very, very thin as in a little thinner than last time. Okay. That's a good thinness. And I'm going to show this on the screen so that you can see how thin I'm talking. You guys see how thin that is? So pretty thin. All right, now this is where, again, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife. I'm going to cut my top off because I need a skinny little rectangle. A skinny little rectangle. And how thick do I want my rim to be? I'm thinking, let's do that size. Okay, yep, and I'm going to peel the excess away. This is great. Now I have extra clay to play with. You could always use the scraps and create cute little magnets for the fridge. I love creating anything planty. All right, I'm going to peel this up just like before. All right. Oh, I forgot to cut the edge, so I'm going to cut one edge here. See, I want a nice sharp edge. And now I'm going to take my pot. And I like to put it wherever that initial seam was. Remember we had that little seam there? So I'm going to place it right on that seam. And then I'm going to spin it around until it meets the other side. And there's that. See where it meets? And just like before, we're going to cut off that little bit of extra. And you're going to carefully smooth it out. And again, this is where you can also use this guy again and kind of smooth them out. I love using tools for multi-purpose. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you guys can. So I'm just smoothing it out. Okay, I'm going to fix up any areas I'm getting fixed up. And then I'm going to pinch. See how up at the top it's kind of got a bumpy rim? I'm just going to start to smooth it out with my finger. Right. It doesn't have to be perfect because, again, keep in mind we're going to have plants and sand and all kinds of stuff popping out of it. So that is how we create our very first little clay pot. So this guy is going to be ready to go ahead and pop in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and create the second clay pot. If you want to work with me, feel free. If you want to fast forward to the next step, you can do that. But go ahead and you're going to want to make sure your oven is preheated to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to pop these in the oven for 30 minutes. They're going to cook for 30 minutes. No sooner than that. If you want to cook it 45 minutes, that's fine. But make sure you cook it at least 30 minutes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. When it comes out of the oven, you're going to want to make sure that it is completely cool before you begin the next step. If your clay is a little soft when it comes out of the oven, no worries. That is completely normal. You actually want softer clay. That's good quality clay. So let it fully cool after the oven. So that guy is good to go in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the next pot. So if you are still with me, I'm about to go over the step one more time. So I'm going to take my little scraps, put it to the side. I have my piece. I'm going to condition it out. See how it's all crackly. Definitely needs to be conditioned. Looks like a dog hair made its way into my clay. Anybody have that? I swear, cat hair, dog hair, any animal. You can't work with polymer clay and not end up with at least one animal hair somehow in your clay work. Okay. So I've conditioned my clay. Yeah, that's a good width. I'm going to show you guys real quick the width. Yep, it's a good width there. All right, just like before, I'm going to cut off the top. I do the best job there, that's okay. And then same thing here. This pot might be a little bit smaller than the other one, I think. I maybe made my rectangle a little too skinny. Okay. Use the tissue plate to pull it up. And then I'm gonna grab this guy. Let the clay hang off a bit. Roll it till it meets. Once it meets, I'm going to cut off the excess. Then I'm going to merge the two lightly. Doesn't have to be perfect, just enough. And like I said before, we can use the tile to kind of help smooth it. All right, that's good enough. I'm going to take the bottom, I'm going to mash it together, close that end so that we form a pot, like a little pinch pot. All right. And then to get rid of that little tip, I'm going to put down on the tile, just kind of help create that nice round, like potted look. Okay. And again, we can throw it in the freezer if we want, or if you're brave or impatient like me, we're gonna slowly pop this guy off. Whoop, there we go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'll take another scrap here. We're gonna thin it out. Thin it out. I do not want a thick rim on the pot because jump rings have to go over it. All right. Again, we're gonna cut. Oop. And then we're gonna cut. I'll cut it this way. Okay, I got my small piece here. I'm gonna rotate it. Actually, I'm gonna rotate it this way because I did a poor job of cutting that last part. Let's cut it one more time. That's what happens when you get impatient. All right, we're gonna line it up with that seam. And we're gonna pull it around the pot until they meet. Then I'm gonna cut off that extra little bit, the little tail of clay, cut it off. And then I want to merge it. So this is where I'm gonna start to smooth out that little seam. See? I need to smooth it out here too a little bit on the actual pot. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, now I'm just gonna go around and pinch the edging and clean up that edging because it's not the prettiest right now. So we're just gonna lightly clean up the edge. All right. That's good enough. All right, and there we have it. We have two little pots, and they will never be twins, but it's okay that they're sisters, maybe even far cousins. That's okay. If you're very nitpicky and you're like, oh, nope, this pot is too tiny, keep in mind that's one of the beauties with polymer clay is you can scrap it and start over again, no problem. As you can see here, we have tons of clay left just from that tiny little brick that I can easily create at least another pot with this. So if you're like, I don't know, I want to create a backup pot, feel free to go for it. All right, so now that I have my 2 pots, I'm gonna go ahead and pop these in the oven. Now that my oven is preheated at 275 degrees, if you do not have a hand vise, you can poke the holes now, which is just gonna be right underneath the rim. That's if you don't have a hand vise on you, because you want to create the holes before you bake it, if you're using a toothpick. But if you got the kit, you have a hand vise, and we are going to drill after. So I will see you guys after 30 minutes after these have baked. Yeah, I'll see you guys soon. All right, bye. Ba-da-da-da. All right, so our pots have been baked. Now is the time where we're going to start assembling. Now I'm going to go ahead, I don't know if you can see it, but I have my hot glue gun. It is already plugged in so that we can start getting things warmed up. That said, we're going to go ahead and first drill our holes. You want to drill the holes and assemble the hardware before you fill it with hot glue, because otherwise you're not going to be able to finagle once it's filled with hot glue, essentially. So that said, let's go ahead and drill our holes. We're going to be using a vise. You can use a motorized drill if you want. A hand vise works just as well. Now, the important thing is to keep in mind that a jump ring has to fit around the entire rim of this, right? So you want to drill it right where the lip is. And you're just going to spin back and forth, back and forth. I almost do it at an angle. I don't want to go straight down. I want to do it at an angle because my jump rings are round, right? Can you see that? That's probably the best way to show you. So back and forth, back and forth. There we go, and I've punctured it through. Now I want to keep going because I want it to be kind of a looser hole. I don't want super stiff earrings. I want that jump ring to fit in there snugly. All right, perfect. So now I have 1 hole. Now we have 3 chains, so if that's my hole right there, I'm going to essentially build a triangle, right? So if 1 hole's here, that means my other hole's going to be right here, and the other one's here. So I'm going to go ahead, gauge where it's going to be, rotate it, and start building that second hole. That's what you're going to do. You're going to put 3 holes in each pot right underneath the pot lip, and you want to keep going because you're clearing out that hole so that your jewelry can have movement. There's nothing worse than having a really stiff pair of earrings. And you'll be able to gauge how loose or tight it is before we commit to the glue. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, so that means my next one needs to be right about here. Is that right? Yep, right about there. Some people, I feel like drilling holes and sanding, like the finishing part of clay is so satisfying. Some people can't stand this part. Others, it's kind of gratifying. Like, kind of tearing it up, essentially. You're tearing up your piece. I love tinkering like this. Okay. Give it a little blowout. Okay, so now I've got 3 holes on my pot. Now this is where I'm going to take my jump rings, and this is why I said it's super handy if you have pliers. Now, when you open your jump rings, the best way to describe it, so let's pretend this is a jump ring, right? Naturally, people want to open and close the jump ring like this. What happens is you distort the shape. So when you are opening and closing your jump rings, I want you to open it and close it this way, if that makes any sense. Here, if you look on where I'm at, I want to move this. If I'm a jump ring, you're going to open and close your jump ring like this, not like this, okay? That way so you keep the shape of the circle intact. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I like to use 2 pliers because I use 1 plier to hold it, and I don't move it. I just hold it, and then I use the other plier to open it up, right? And now here's the fun part, shimmying it on to the pot. Okay, so that's on there. Now I'm going to take one of my chains before I close it, and I'm going to slide a chain on there. This part can be a little tricky at first. I think sometimes the size of the chain makes a difference. Okay, so I've slid it on there. I'm going to take it. Again, I'm going to hold it with one plier, and I'm just going to move it forward and close it, right? Now I have one little part of my chained pot. So go ahead and do the other jump rings. Let's go ahead and get those put on there. Slide it on, put a chain, close it. See, I'm still struggling even with two pliers. Okay, close it. Make sure it's really, you want to make sure that the seam is fully closed because you don't want that chain sliding out. So make sure you don't have a gap in between your jump rings. I feel like the more times I do this, the more I need a little magnifying glass to kind of see. Okay. And I really like this chain because it is, oh goodness, get on there. I really like this chain because it is 18 karat gold plated. So it doesn't tarnish. They stay shiny. I have one pair of these that I've had for probably 2 years now, still just as shiny. Granted, the jump rings have lost their shine. The jump rings, will get tarnished, but the chain itself, the main, like, can you see how sparkly that is? That keeps it shine always. I love it. Okay, so I've put the jump rings on my pot. I'm going to go ahead and do the second pot too while I'm at it, while you guys are assembling your piece, and then I will show you the next step with filling up. Don't forget to drill it, Catherine. Be mindful of your fingers, guys. One good thing about the hand vices is they don't drill as fast as the motorized drills. I've definitely got my fingers a couple times with the motorized ones, so I feel like the hand vise is a good way to go. Okay, so if that's it, we're gonna make a triangle. It's gonna be right here. Now this is gonna be a thick jump ring, I can tell, or a thick area on my pot. So you see, for example, see how wide that area is on my pot compared to this area, very thin. Now what might end up needing to happen is I may need to make this hole a little bigger because I might have to drill a little bit into the lip of the pot because my jump ring has to be able to fit around the pot, right? It has to fit around the rim. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to make this one just a little bit bigger. And this happens with, you're literally building a pot out of clay. So it's never going to be perfectionism. We don't have a little mold that we can put clay in like you do with a manufacturer. Okay, 1, 2, so that means my third one's going to go right here. I almost thought about using that leftover clay to create a magnet too. I was like, oh, got a lot of clay left over. We can make one more magnet. And you'll see too, when we get to the clipping section, that you're going to have some plants left over as well. Generally, you won't use all the plant that's included in your kit. Okay, got a good enough hole there. So now this one, see how it's going to be a little bit tricky to slide it on there. But he fits. Just a little finagling. So yeah, if you find that you have the rim around your pot is just a little bit too thick, just open up the hole a little bigger. That's all. next one. Steady hands. Now this rim is really thick. That's okay. It will fit. Just gonna pinch it just a little bit. I hate to do that, but I want to make sure that my chain doesn't come off. There we go. Nice and round. Perfect. See? No opening. And you're going to see that you have a few extra jump rings that are a little bit smaller, perhaps. And that is so that we have a way to connect all 3 chains together and attach it to either the fish hooks, the huggy hoops, the clip-ons, just so you have a way to attach it, right? All right, look how cute. It's coming together. It's coming together. Okay, so I've got the chain on it, and now I have the hardware, so now I can start gluing. But before I begin gluing, you kind of want to gauge how you want your plant to look, because once you put glue in it, you kind of have to act fast, because the hot glue kind of hardens within, what, 60 seconds? So I have my pieces here, and some of these pieces are really big. By all means, if you want, you can cut them down, because keep in mind that's how much is going to be sticking out. Like that one might be a little too big. I might want to cut it down. You can either cut it down, use it for something else, or when it's hot, you can kind of mush it down deeper. So, but generally you want 3 pieces for each little pot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to trim these guys down because I kind of want a little bit more of a petite look. Trim him down. Now keep in mind I'm leaving a little bit of the stem because once it goes in the pot it's going to get melted. And I want these pretty leaves, but this guy is what's going to connect them. He's going to be melted inside there. You'll see as we go along. Alright, 1, 2, and that. You could even take the little stragglers. Put it in there like that. Yeah, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. Take these guys, cut him. So, because you're essentially fitting quite a bit of pieces in this actual pot. So see right here, I like this 3 little piece, but I'm keeping a little chunk on the end so that it has a way to glue inside of it, because I would like that part to stick out. Okay? So now that we have all 3, good. Okay, so I'm going to take my pot. Now you have 3 parts, and just to kind of show you, when it hangs, you typically are going to have 2, and then the 3rd one is in the back, right? You have 2, and then one's in the back. So I'm going to choose my 2, where I want the front facing. For me, I think I'm going to have the front facing there, and this little guy is going to be in the back. So I'm going to pull these guys aside, chain down, and now I have my 3 pieces ready. I'm gonna act quick with this. Oh. All right, so I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 little squirts. Oh, there goes my chain. Be mindful of that. Don't pull a Catherine mistake. Ouchie. Okay, now I'm going to take my 3 and I'm just going to place it in there. Yeah, I probably could have used a little bit more glue. My chain pulled out some of the glue. Okay. So I have my 3 pieces. I'm just gonna move it around till I like it. And then you're gonna take this little sand and you're just gonna sprinkle it in and around. Okay. Just gonna sprinkle it. We're gonna let that sit. We're gonna let that pot cool down, okay? Be mindful. Yeah, definitely be mindful of the chain. I'll have to. The good thing is it'll pull off because it's a metal, so it's not gonna like get stuck there permanent. But I'll fiddle with that in just a bit. Okay. So that's one so far, right? I've pushed my pieces down. Now I'm gonna go with my next one. I have my 3 pieces stacked up. I'm gonna choose which direction I want them. Hold the chain down. Don't pull a Catherine and get chain inside your pot. All right, I'm gonna fill it up with some glue. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 because my thing's a little slow. All right, I've got the glue. It's still warm. Take these guys. Just gonna shove it in there. You have the ability to move it around too. And you know what? I think I'm gonna take this little guy here. We're just gonna pop in too because I think he's cute. Okay. And then same thing. Take your sand. Sprinkle it in there. A little messy, that's okay. And basically, it's gonna stick to anywhere that the glue is exposed because you don't want that awkward, just like clear glue hanging in there. So I'm gonna let that one sit aside. I might move him around just a bit. Okay, good. All right, so now I'm gonna go back to my first pot. He's still a little warm, so you don't wanna start this next process just yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling this excess glue that I unintentionally got on there. Also, don't forget to turn off your hot glue gun. I am notorious for forgetting mine, so turn off your hot glue gun once you're done. Okay. I think that's good for the most part. Yep. Okay. All right, guys. We may continue. All right, so it's pretty cool now. Now I'm going to take my little pot. I'm going to dump it upside down. Give it a little tap, 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 tap. You're going to get the excess sand out of it. Ooh, that's looking cute, guys. That's looking real cute. Okay, now is the fun part where we are going to attach the pieces. So I am just going to take a jump ring, open it up, and this is where you need to get all 3 chains onto the one jump ring. So just be patient with it. There's 2. And then number 3. I feel like I'm fighting through the plant. All right, all 3 are on there. Perfect. Okay. So I have all 3. And I guess when I put it in, I didn't pay attention to having it more triangular. As you can see, mine's kind of more off to the side. That's okay though. All right, so I have it open, and now I'm going to take either one of these guys, or you can take one of these guys, and I'm just going to slide it on there. I'm going to put it on a huggy hoop today. And we're going to close it. Perfect. Yeah, I put them off a little to the side. That's okay though. That's a-okay. It's funny because I'm recording this kind of looking backwards on the screen. So, but yeah, be mindful of the little triangle when you are putting yours together. Oh, let's tap, tap, tap that guy. This one's a cutie. This one is a cutie for sure. Now, can you add the holes after you've put the glue in? Yes, you can. Just keep in mind you are going to be fighting to, you're going to be fighting through trying to get your jump ring through glue. Have I done it? Absolutely. Do I recommend it? No, I prefer to do it this way. Oh yeah, he is a cutie. Oh, look at this guy. He's darling. Okay, so I got him. Now I'm going to put this guy on. Let me see. Okay, he's this way. Yep, he's darling. All right, and if you got the Huggy Hoops, I'm going to go over real quick how to open and close the Huggy Hoops, because sometimes people have a little bit of confusion with it. I sent my girlfriend some earrings with Huggy Hoops, and she panicked because she didn't know how to take them off. So here's how you're going. If you have the Huggy Hoops, you're going to pull it open and close it. Now, if it seems a little loose, what you can do is you can take this bar right here and just ever so slightly, doesn't take much, pull it up just a bit, and then suddenly it tightens it. Hear it? You want it to have that click. If it doesn't have that click, just tighten a little bit. Or it could be vice versa. It's too tight and you can loosen it. So that's good too. All right. So there you have it, guys. There are our hanging plant earrings. I know they're backwards. Our hanging plant earrings. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments. I will link whatever additional products you might want, as far as if you want sand, or if you want, you know, to get more clay and create planted earrings for everybody in your family. But thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I will catch you again soon. Bye, guys.